ends. The circumstances of death. In Hinduism, the sages were honored at their death. Today, they are revered and held in high respect. In other words, it was an honorable ending to their lives. The people could look back and were happy, talked good things about the person who had just gone. In Buddhism, he died in Kusira, surrounded by his disciples who strained to catch every one of his last words. The body was wrapped in 1,000 layers of the finest Banaras cloth and cremated. 1,000 layers of Banaras cloth. The Banaras cloth is the finest silk. And 1,000 layers means the highest honor you can possibly give the body. Islam, Umar, who was one of the top leaders next to Muhammad, he was dumbfounded and fell to the ground at the time of Muhammad's death because a great leader had gone. And so also the people who hurried ashen-faced to the mosque. And everywhere it was a time-honored thing of the women slapping their cheeks and beating their breasts because that's the way they mourned the death of an individual who was revered and honored and respected. Judaism, Moses was 120 years old when he died, and the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab for 30 days. 30 days, state mourning. Flag flying half-mast. The whole nation paralyzed. That is the way they showed respect for this great departed leader. Christianity, entirely different, the worst. With him were also crucified two robbers, one on his right and the other on his left, and he was numbered with the criminals. He died a criminal's death. The least honorable of them all. No other founder went to that kind of ending in his life. And therefore, at this point, you compare the founders, he comes out utterly last. Every other founder had a wonderful ending. Every other founder could look back at his life and say, what a life I have lived. Look at how much I have changed the landscape. Village after village has accepted my teachings, and the society itself has been changed because of my message. This person, nothing. When he finished, he was finished off as a criminal. Not only that, at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? No religious tradition can ever be founded on a statement that he is forsaken of God. That's a hard way to end life and still try to make a religious movement. Why did the leaders want him crucified? You know, blasphemy, according to the Jewish tradition, which is in their Torah, is punished by stoning to death. But they asked specifically that he be crucified because crucified is a form of hanging. And according to their own Torah, that's what it says. You shall surely bury him, the person who is punished by hanging, that very day, so that you do not defile the land, for he who is hanged is accursed of God. So that was the ultimate, clearest evidence to a Jew that you should never follow him because he has been cursed of God. And therefore, he was condemned and sentenced to death by the highest religious authority in his nation, the Sanhedrin. He was condemned and sentenced to death by the highest civil and judicial authority in the world at that time, which was Rome. And he was condemned and sentenced to death by the highest authority to the Jewish mind in the whole universe, that was Jehovah God himself. That's the ending of his life. Naturally, if you and I are searching and looking at this story as it unfolds and as it ends, some questions do arise, and they did arise in my own mind. And the questions are these: if he really died such a criminal's death, and he did, how come some of the greatest painters on earth have taken his themes and made some of the most beautiful paintings in the world today, in some of the most prestigious museums? How come some of the greatest sculptors have taken themes from this criminal's teachings? How come some of the greatest Institutions of learning have started out in his name. Would you like to start out an institution and put a criminal's name on some of the central buildings? Difficult to imagine that, but there's a question. How come? How come people go out in his name? A criminal's name, half naked, actually, the truth is, not half naked, completely naked. Everyone who was crucified completely naked. So, a naked criminal dangling on an instrument of torture, and you want to go out and talk about him and go out in his name? The fact is, I am from the East, and so I know that. My color is brown, and I see people sometimes, I've seen them, they're different color from me, they're fairer than me. They've come to my country, India. They don't live sometimes in the cities. They go out to the villages. Sit with those people there in the dust, in the mud, in the muck. Drink their dirty water, eat their dirty food, contract their diarrheal diseases, and sometimes die with their little babies also, right there out in those villages. I have seen it. And then sometimes they're buried in little mounds in the earth with little mounds of dirt over their bodies without even a name tag nearby. Naturally, I will ask the question, what in the name of anything causes them to do this? They've left their air-conditioned places here. They left all their family here and go out like that and die. Can anybody give me an explanation? Why point to a naked body hanging on an instrument of torture? Why not point to some business tycoon or some emperor or some king who can take care of your family after you are gone? Why point to this kind of a criminal? If he really was a criminal, if he really was finished off like we saw, and that's the truth of the matter, then can anyone explain why the whole human race of the Julian calendar has placed him at a pivotal position that has split the human history into two, BC and AD? Every time you write a letter, every time you write a check, you put a date down there, and that date corresponds to this criminal's birth. Amazing questions came to me at that time. Why? Who put him there? 2,000 years. Was there nobody else with better credentials than this crucified criminal that you want to put him in the middle of all history and leave him there for 2,000 years, nobody even questioning whether he should be there or not? The only founder to die a violent, shameful criminal's death. Last. Obviously settled as last in the line of the founders.